Hi guys, I got my coffee, thank God. I can still make that. But again, you have to be mindful of the water. Be very careful of the water. My water has been tainted numerous times. My ex-husband was doing that. And a lot of the stuff he was doing before I left. He had gotten increasingly violent and he was doing a lot of this stuff to keep me in a low energy mode, waking me up at 3 a.m., slamming doors. I caught him repeatedly, and I won't get into this video about him, but certainly with a domestic abuser, impacting your agency, impacting your job. I used to think, well, why does he want me to earn more and more money? Isn't that a good thing? No, because the whole point is to destroy who you are. It's destroy any assets you have, undermine you, keep you isolated. You don't have friends and family. Certainly he turned my family against me. I have no friends, on and on and on. But this video isn't really about him. I want to touch base on, people say, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Well, when you do all those things and they still do this to you, this is why I started my channel. And you can see young people talking about being an influencer, starting channels, and they don't know what's going on with the economy. And I'm certainly in that predicament too. My mother smashed my computer, my $5,000 computer, and then they all laughed and told me to go to Walmart and get another one. They're only they're only $150. Computers that I was using, the software alone, Photoshop, is $1,000. My computer was upwards of $5,000. And they laughed and told me computers at Walmart are $150, go get one. Okay, so this was the attitude, and certainly part of it is ignorance, and part of it is this violence that I grew up with. Certainly when I tried to study, certainly any activities, extracurricular activities. I used to go to things like Girl Scout, and she'd leave me on the street for hours at a time. I'd tell her that Girl Scouts was done at 7. She might show up at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. But again, this video isn't about her. It's about doing all those things and then going into these agencies. This is why it's systemic or legal abuse with these people. Because yes, I would recommend right now you start working in your garden. I was over there on Ridge Road, and this woman, Jennifer Cernak, that they all love, sat around her jammies all day long trying to scam people on Craigslist. Yeah, that's what she did all day long, because she had it in her delusion that she was supposed to be a sham. She wasn't supposed to work. So they overbought, they were upside down on their mortgage, and they decided to make an in-law apartment. Yeah, and the first thing she did was paint the door black, and I found out it wasn't because I was into photography, because they were going to get themselves a servant, or they were going to exploit this person, which they did with me and other tenants that they had, whether it was the TV, the heat, and various other things, because you can easily pocket a couple $1,000s and throw the person out because there's no accountability. And I should know because my neighbor on the lake was involved with code enforcement, and he was on disability for 20 years, and I certainly don't think there was anything wrong with the man because he continually tried to scam me out of my lake home, which they eventually did. So doing all these things is important. I recommend them. Keeping a pantry. I even offered with this Jennifer to go out and help her with her garden, but she was too lazy to do that. She'd rather stay in her pajamas all day and scam somebody like me. So if you want some advice, which people say, oh, you keep talking about this. Well, I'm talking about it because this is what my channel is about. If you don't want to participate, then don't hang around my channel, okay? Because I did all that. I was out there with the garden, pulling shale out. And you know what all the haters did? The neighbors went over there and destroyed every single plant in my garden because I was taking care of myself, canning, making bread, doing these kind of things because I knew the economy was getting hard. So get yourself a garden. It's a great idea. You can stay ahead of inflation by keeping a pantry, by cooking. Certainly with one person, not so much now because you can get a little takeout and it's more economical than it is for a family to eat out, but you can certainly do things like that. I DIY'd everything. I thrifted religiously. As an artist, we often do that, and I knew with the way careers were changing and the way the tech field was changing, I didn't have a guaranteed job, a unionized job like my ex-husband and all of his friends, so I was often scrambling because in the early years of our marriage, I didn't know he was causing so much trouble behind my back, which I found out toward the end of the marriage that he was doing all this stuff behind my back. So certainly I did have a hot side hustle, which I do recommend. I was a graphic designer. I was getting very good at it. I was picking up an extra $2,000 a month easily. But the business didn't go that far because the courts didn't have any respect for the fact that I also had a business. And then we had rental business. Yes, we also built a rental business together, the two of us. As a landlord, having renters in your home is a whole other story, and I'll get into that. but we also had various other properties, and one was his mother, but the house was supposed to be ours with the guarantee after we took care of her for 20 years. And there's other stories to go along with our rental business, but I'll just table that for right now because it gets a little complex. But what I'd like to impress upon you is, yes, all those things work. They work very well for me. And the mean girl haters watched as the years went by me become more and more successful because I was frugal, because I did do all those things, okay? And you can be very successful living under your means, cooking, doing some of these things, foregoing vacations, not buying jewelry. I could go on in the different thrifting things, but thrifting things. I'm sorry, I haven't had much sleep. But in this kind of situation, you're not allowed to do anything. So you take all that away from somebody and you throw them on the street. Okay, and that's basically what was done to me. Okay, so yes, those things work. And I was gonna, if you see the very first video where I started here, that's what I was gonna do. I was shaken, but I was leasing my home. I had all my art supplies, my portfolios and everything, my photography. I had my computer equipment. I had everything to keep going with my business, work my career. I had my car, and I had made my first video about healthy living and helping people, sort of like a Helen Gurley Brown, Mouseburger your way, and do well. So it's very demoralizing to hear people say, well, why don't you do this? How come you're not listening to this? And we're trying to help you in this now, because that's not what this channel is about now, because I did all that. And if you see my very first video on my channel, it was going to go in that direction. Okay, but my writing still is online. I tried to go forward with that. So if you're welcome to, if you Google my name, Rhonda J. Flanagan, I did start writing on my blog and keeping track of being homeless, writing about being homeless, which I would like to write more in a situation like this. Is very difficult. Okay, because the anxiety level is awful. Okay, because you're not allowed to sleep. And this goes on every 2 to 3 hours. If I try to lay down now, this thing starts again, and it gets so bad where you have to get up. And it's usually about 2 or 3 hours. So we'll put that aside. But yes, and my art, I had a whole studio that I had been putting together for 20 years. I had Winsor Newton and sable brushes from college. So yes, you can slowly build a side hustle on the side, and you can do very well, and we can get into some of that. But that's not what was done. And the mean girls and these men get together, plotting and scheming, and this is the result, and this is why I started the channel. Be safe.